the ancient Egyptians believed in a god named Sobek, which is depicted as
Yes, one of
having the head.
us.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, you just guessed my question and answered it for me. So it was a member of KALASK. Okay.
Wasn't that difficult, was it?
So what was, if you don't mind me asking, what was your role in ancient Egypt? What were
Well,
your experiences?
we're visiting, like many others, as you're aware, many of your so-called Egyptian civilization had numerous gods that you might consider anthropomorphic, right?
Uh-huh.
Obviously, there are so-called animal gods were mainly beings for the words. Some of them of a humanoid nature, some of them of a not so much humanoid nature, for example, men of other kind, the kitty cats and many others, including birdies, etc. Obviously, also in other cultures, where they're depicted slightly different, but very often you're different cultures on the planet, visits from the same guys, and just depicted them differently. In our case, we were overseeing the whole process, just like many others. We're obviously also in a rulership position. So, for example, again, we're reading a timeline here that you're currently asking from, right? That a member of your own species who asked earlier if they would have liked to have a sexual encounter with us, this would have been a better time, right? Obviously, she would have been enslaved. Most humans were slaves at the time. Obviously, we're talking about ancient Egypt here, not what your archaeologists or Egyptologists consider your pharaonic times. Those were later, when people to some degree had ET DNA that were thrown to a greater degree, right? Most of this was a remnant from Atlantis, so we were just overseeing the process in earlier times when it was a king's period, right?
Right.
So, at this particular time, most pyramids were also still in function, which there are no longer. However, many of us were residing there as well. Yes. Many of
Uh-huh.
them were functioning for numerous reasons, and also the way they were built in certain structure was not necessarily constructed by us, but the process was overseen by some of our members, well, the earlier ones at least, rather copycats or copy bears, monkeys rather. And in many regards, we simply colonized the planet. So many of our kind colonized one area, another colonized another area, and some of us also battled with each other, as you also see in your mythology, right? Most of your ancient religions, before your Abrahamic faiths came along, right, were all numerous gods who were not necessarily in charge of everything, but many have conflicts with each other, which is simply because our own species numerously fought over territory. So maybe very simply, we simply colonized an area, put in a reptilian overlord, quite literally, as your northern conspiracy idea, you're calling such, right? Back then it was indeed the case, but very openly the idea, yes, the god is a reptile, simply put.
Okay.
The whole idea that humans rule over themselves was a revolutionary idea at the time.
Okay. So who was Amun-Ra? Is this just another name for either Enki or Enlil?
Well, many of your gods' names got mixed up later, and one deeds of one god were ascribed to the other, and vice versa. It was one of the birdies, yes. One we certainly were ins back then, for sure.
Okay. So which ancient Egyptian god is actually Enki or Enlil?
For what we're aware of, the one you just named is likely Enlil, or again, in numerous mythologies, things were switched up between gods. So many deeds you have in one mythology that fit to a certain god, or were later put on another god, etc., etc. However, you also had the conflict between Osiris and Set. There also was translated later to the idea of the conflict between Enlil and Enki.
Okay. So do you know the name of the Egyptian god that was really Enki?
Again, your conflict between the Set and the Osiris person was reflective upon them. It's likely the Set person was Enki and the Osiris person was Enlil, but again, it's not always a literal fit because it's been mismatched. Right?
Right.
The bloodline from Enlil and Anu is the same bloodline that comes down from Ra.
Okay. Where did Thoth come from, and why was he so involved with Atlantis and ancient Egypt?
Well, He was originally Atlantis and traveled from there to Egypt. He was likely something like a bookkeeper, also healing with certain expertise, right?
Okay.
He was a philosopher, so to speak, and what you might consider today perhaps a magician.
So where did he come from, and why did he choose to come to Earth?
Well, numerous civilizations land on New World, the birdies included, and they also came to Blenders the reason many others came to colonize this planet and infuse it with their own technology and their own culture. Why did your peoples travel from Europe to the Americas, for example?
Okay. So were there many other members of Thoth's race on Earth?
Yes, the birdies, correct.
Okay. Did he really have a very long bird-like beak?
Well, much of that is more symbolic, Gary. Much of
Okay.
that is later ascribed to Harris monkeys. You're aware of look like a little crocodile, however, very similar. Many people on your world who just heard stories of that's what the gods look like, kind of like the animal you see over there, right? So
Right.
many of the depictions were made later on.
Okay.
So none of those look literally like a human body with an animal head on top, but it obviously reminded them strongly of it.
Right. So is Thoth still alive?
For what we're aware, yes, but then again, it depends on what time of you're asking.
Okay. So the one that I'm asking from right now, is he alive?
Well, you still have a lot to do in terms of understanding how timelines function, but yes, technically he's alive currently, from what you're asking.
Okay. Is he on Earth or some other planet?
Some other world, yes, or a spaceship more likely currently.
Okay.
I mean, like, who was Anubis? Was he just a regular canine, or was there something special about him?
Depends what you consider special. Depends what you consider a god. He was a visitor from another world. By your planet's definition, that means a god, yes. The door god is on your world in your mythology. So the same as Thor's energy. He was someone sent to us to consider perhaps a prince, yes? Makes him special somewhere, yes? Doesn't mean more power than anybody else from his species, but obviously more than the average Earthling.
What solar system did he come from?
We believe he was indeed from the Sirius system. However, that was not necessarily his homeworld, there was also a relation to the Orion system at this time.
Can you say if he's still alive?
Yes.
Cool. Very interesting.
There are so many of his kind that are still alive, many of his comrades. His species, his race, he was just a representative of when he came. Seen as a god, but really, there are an entire race of what you consider perhaps Anubites or whatever out there, yes? Most likely they're located around Orion systems.
Cool.
You know, we were talking about the gold mines. Well, I don't know if they were gold mines or whatever, but can you tell me which specific minerals the Anunnaki were mining in Africa and why they were so important for them?
It was indeed for a large degree gold.
Okay.
But there are also minerals that they needed for their ships, and when you're talking about the Anunnaki, yes, those were various races. From what we're aware of, they were humanoid, yes?
Okay.
And there is simply a race there because they crash landed, so like they came there with flying cars, eventually they want to subjugate your blood. They stranded there because they managed to lose track of their original home planet. They traveled from one to the other, as they were their own planet also traveling, so they went to another planet, to another planet, to another planet, and they arrived first on Mars and Maldek before they came to Earth. And obviously, since Maldek had blown up since their own problems, and a certain conflict between Federation and Empire also, Mars got devastated. They only were left with Venus and Earth, and since Venus also turned into a hot planet after a time, then obviously only Earth was left.
So why?
And they simply need material.
But why? Why did they need gold?
To reinstate some of their technology that was functioning on this basis, but it was not just gold.
Okay. What region of Africa did these mines exist in?
Approximately central.
Okay. Can Can you tell me how tall the Anunnaki were or are?
Approximately 2 meters what we were on average. There are numerous races, some are much smaller, some are much taller. Some reached almost up to our size, while some were much smaller than you.
Okay. Can you tell
1.5 meters per being the smallest ones. But there are numerous races.
Right. Can you tell me who Anu was?
Simply the overseer of a certain government in a particular time.
Was he like the leader during the end of the Cretaceous period?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the Griffin and the races came together to found something like a leader because they needed someone to oversee their operations.
Okay.
But they were not that hierarchically structured as we are.
Who were Enki and Enlil?
Simply offspring of the person. Some of them have reptilian DNA on the Yankee side, however, largely those were all humanoids from what you would perceive as such.
Are any of them still alive?
Yes.
All three?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me how the Anunnaki are connected to ancient Egypt?
Well, they influenced obviously Atlantis to create a create genetically and culturally, and then from there Egypt was seeded. Egypt was not like some historians believe an Indian colony, but rather an Egyptian colony.
Okay.
And then obviously after Egypt was established, originally they still had contact with them. That's why they said they were ruled by their so-called gods, which links back, for example, to the third person.
Um. So, what was the purpose of creating the ancient Egyptian civilization? I mean, was it just to have a colony, or was it also like for a slave workforce?
Both. It was creating a colony, and most of those colonies were originally created to have a slave workforce. Now, at this time around when the Atlantis went underwater, it had already become largely independent, otherwise it would likely not have survived because we have been attacked also.
Okay.
There's like a French Revolution type of scenario.
So, did that happen before Atlantis went under?
Around the time, because Atlantis went under due to that war.
Oh, okay.